Hey you guys, so I just wanted to do this quick check-in and go over what you need to work on the computer for, well, or in class depending on your situation, for this next week and a little bit into next week. So first of all, a reminder, please finish your composition research and your discussion board from the very beginning of school. That was already due, and that needed to be finished by now. Secondly, we're working on our principles of design photos, like the individual shots that you're taking, not the research where you're getting inspiration from other people. So that includes our symmetrical and asymmetrical balance photos, our contrast photo, our repetition photo. Those are ones we started last week, and they ought to have been finished basically by the time you've come to class this current week of the week where we've had Monday off. In class, what we've been doing is we're reviewing repetition notes, space, movement, and rule of thirds notes, and then spending class time taking those photos. If you don't finish the photos in class, you need to finish them at home, or if you're an online student, then you're doing them at home. The last thing we're doing is I've added a discussion board that I want you to complete. The discussion board is called Critique Number 1, Portraiture. What you're doing for that is I've given you 4 photos to choose from, and you're choosing one of them, and you're going to talk about it in the discussion board, and I've given you 4 steps for how to do that. So in order to do the discussion board, to do a critique, there are 4 parts. You describe it, like literally whatever it is that you're looking at. So, for example, say there's a photograph of a tree and a cat and a swing, and it's cloudy. Okay? If that was the photo I was talking about, I would start with describe. I would say, this photo has a tree and a cat and some clouds, and that's all, right? Like, that's all you have to say. It's like 1 sentence long. The second step is to analyze. So on that same pretend photo I'm talking about, you would analyze it for principles of design. So you would say, oh, this photo of this cat at this park with this tree has really great contrast in light and dark. The shadows are really nice, and the highlights are really great, and has a lot of depth. Ta-da, that's analyze. You are identifying a principle of design that is especially obvious, or that seems to be sort of the most prominent of those, okay? And then you interpret. So you're trying to sort of determine what the meaning is, if it has a special meaning, or you're sort of interpreting what's going on, maybe the action or the emotion that's in the photo. So, for example, on the portraiture one specifically, we're looking at what do the clothes or expression or the surroundings or props tell you about the person in the image. Can you get to know these people just by what we see in the photo? Is there enough information to interpret something about their personality? And what does it make you feel or think about? Do you have a sort of instinctive reaction to the photo? Does it give you a certain impression, or does it have a particular mood that you're picking up on? And then the fourth setting, how silly of me. The fourth step is judgment. So when you're interpreting it, you're sort of trying to decide if it has a message and what it's communicating. And step 4 is you're determining if it's a successful image. So one of the ways you could determine success is if you thought it had a message, you could talk about success of how well it communicated that message. So if you thought it was sort of pointing out like the insignificance of humans, or the beauty of nature, or so I don't know, something like that, You could say, I thought it was successful, that message came across really easily. Or maybe it wasn't very successful, my interpretation was based on very few clues, or the arrangement of objects was very confusing, like there wasn't a very obvious focal point, which made it hard to determine the message, right? So you could say if it was successful or not successful, and try and give a reason why you feel that way. You could also talk about, maybe you could talk about if it's a successful image, if it's visually appealing to look at. And not just like, oh, I don't like the color blue and this photo uses a lot of blue. Talk about like try and think of those principles of design. What are things that they could alter about the image that would improve it? Maybe it's low contrast and the message or the emotion in the photo would be benefited by being stronger contrast, or maybe it doesn't have any color contrast and so everything is kind of not very interesting, and so maybe color contrast could enhance the message or enhance the visual interest. So judgment is where you get to talk about what they could change to improve the image and why. Or if something is working well, why is it working well? So that's what you're doing for this critique, okay? I've got 4 portraits. They're by just 2 different artists. One artist is Richard Avedon, and the other one is Steve McCurry. They are both very famous. Steve McCurry currently works for National Geographic. Richard Avedon used to be a fashion photographer. He passed away a few years ago, but the particular portraits I've chosen, the series I've picked, is still very interesting in my opinion. So that's our first critique. So we're finishing up our principles of design photos that you're taking for each description, and then we're doing a discussion board on portraiture. The reason we're doing the discussion board is because we're ramping up to do portraiture ourselves. So that's the purpose of this. In the coming weeks, we will go over all the sort of things you'll need to know to do portraiture. We'll be learning about studio lighting, posing, angles of the camera to avoid or to pay attention to making sure you use them, all of those sorts of things. So that's where we're headed next. If you have questions or you're confused about anything, please let me know. If you need to turn something in and the assignment has been locked, please message me and I will be willing to unlock that for you. So there you go, guys. That is what we're up to in the next little bit. Talk to you later. Bye.